readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, a romance novel talk show that features entertaining interviews with authors and publishing insiders. My last guest of 2020 is dark and edgy romance author Emma Castle. Emma and I chatted about her steamy Tarzan retelling, Love in the Wild, and discussed how she predicted the COVID-19 pandemic in her novel, A Wilderness Within. And Emma participated in our year in review Q&A. Enjoy and happy holidays. Hi, Emma. Thank you for joining me on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you for having me.
Your steamy romance, Love in the Wild, is a modern day retelling of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan adventure novels. And as you know, I really adored this book. Why Tarzan?
So, Love in the Wild is, I call it the book of my heart because for as long as I can remember, I have enjoyed Edwardian romances, Victorian romances, these old adventure stories like King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard, She, Jules Verne. I just love those kind of stories where the actual writing on the page is beautiful and it's poignant and it's epic on a large scale and it's full of adventure and there's romance and there's a lot of strong female characters, and I just was always drawn to Tarzan. So I happened to be in this cover group with this amazing cover artist that I love, Anna Crosswell, and she puts up pre-made covers, and she put up a cover, which would soon be the Tarzan cover, and she said Wild Prince as the title, and I took one look at it and I went, that's my Tarzan book. So I messaged her and I said, I want this cover. And she said, well, you're fourth in line. And I think I cried maybe a little bit. And about 6 hours later, she messaged me and she goes, well, the first other three people decided they didn't really want it. So do you want it? I'm like, why are you asking me a second time? Here's my money. So she gave me the book cover and I told her, I said, well, this is going to be a Tarzan book. And she started laughing. I'm like, why is that funny? She goes, I purposely designed it to be a Tarzan cover. And she goes, and I know that these other three authors weren't going to write a Tarzan story. She says, I was watching the Alexander Skarsgård Tarzan movie when I designed the cover and was all inspired. And she goes, so of course, naturally, you're the one that gets it and is going to do it. And I'm like, of course, because the universe connects us on these things.
In which ways are you faithful to Burroughs' work? And in which ways do you stray from the original? Because I assume that Burroughs, omitted waterfall sex from his books, but yet it's in yours.
I reread all three original Tarzan. I mean, there have been other novels since, but I read the first core trilogy that he wrote. I wanted to make sure that I had the same kind of poetic voice. I wanted to make sure that I had the same journey. So if you notice the first couple of chapters after I kind of set up the drama with the Eden, the Jane character, then I go back in time and I show his parents and I show his growing up, because a good portion, like I think almost the first fourth of the first Tarzan book, is just his parents, how they're surviving, what they're doing. And I didn't have a chance to give them that much time because I knew we're in a more modern age. We've got to have shorter attention spans. It is about his journey, his parents, how he grows up, how he learns he's different, because in the books, that's a very strong theme for the original Tarzan, is how he's different and how he loves his mother, his gorilla mother, even though he doesn't know his parents. And so when I was updating it, I thought, okay, I'm going to show this amazing love for his gorilla mother, but a little bit different than the modern books. The old books, I'm going to show how he discovers and then bonds with his deceased parents and how they affect him and what little memories he did have of them. And I made him a little older. The original Tarzan was an infant when his parents died. I think logistically that was a little harder, so I thought I needed a small toddler. The original Tarzan wasn't sexy, I would say, but it was so romantic. People don't realize there are scenes where Tarzan and Jane have just this instant, beautiful connection where they're just drawn to each other. And Tarzan is protective and sweet. He's truly is this alpha virgin hero that you just love because he's going to protect you and kick butt when he needs to. But he's also the guy that's just going to want to cuddle up with you at night and tuck you in by a waterfall and just hold you because you're the most precious thing in the world to him. And I thought, I want to play that up. I want to really draw that out and give the romance readers what Edgar Rice Burroughs could not do without violating all sorts of, moral issues back in the day that would have got him, questionably challenged for pornography and other things. I thought I'm going to give the modern readers, since we allow that now, the chance to experience that on the page. This is probably a two-part question. I mean, there's the traditional romance as we know it today, with the happy endings and that kind of thing. So for that first, traditional adult normal romance, I would say was The Scent of Darkness by Christina Dodd. And I got to meet her and tell her that when I was at my first Romance Writers of America conference. And then she started crying, her assistant started crying, and then I was bawling. And then I was really glad I was at the end of the line. So it was like this whole magic moment. The first, in my opinion, true romance I read was in 8th grade, and it was The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. And it is about, that they've now made an HBO series about the first book, His Dark Materials, which is the series name. And in the series, it's the little girl Lyra, but she grows up to be like 15 or 16 by the third book. And she's fallen in love with this guy she meets in book 2 to save every single universe in the universes that are all exist. They couldn't be together. And they talked about this bench in Cambridge, and I'm already getting choked up just trying to talk about it, where they said that once a year they would both go sit on this bench on the same day at the same time in their separate worlds and sit there and feel together.
In June 2019, roughly 9 months before the COVID pandemic, you published a pandemic thriller romance, A Wilderness Within, which is eerily prophetic on many levels. My question to you, Emma, is, are you a clairvoyant seer? How and why did this book happen?
I will admit my family does have some sort of, the females in my mother's matriarchal line do have, I don't know if it's sensing something wrong at the moment or feelings. I know personally I do have that sense where when I'm in a place where something either terrible has happened or something very good has happened, I can know without even knowing the history of the room by walking into it and feeling it. But I don't know if I have clairvoyance. I loved movies like Outbreak, Contagion, and I love watching those kind of things and getting all scared and going, this really could happen. So I think it was in February of 2019, I had watched Contagion, and I was like, this, maybe no one's ever done a pandemic Contagion romance. This is interesting. What if I wrote about this? I got maybe 7 or 8 books on viruses, epidemiology, virus hunting from the CDC, the history of Ebola, cholera outbreaks in New York. And I just read everything cover to cover. And I just was reading, and I just noticed that they all kept saying, it will probably be, the next pandemic will be a flu-like virus that will come from China, and it will probably be from bats because the Chinese and the wet markets put everything together that shouldn't be. And so I just took the science that was there and the dire warnings that these scientists in the books have been saying for years. And I just said, what if that happened 6 months from now? And I literally set the story where it happened in December and November of 2019 through March of 2020, never knowing when I published it that setting it into the future would somehow make it come true.
Has the pandemic helped with the success of A Wilderness Within? Have you seen like a bump up in like downloads?
No, so that's been the fun part. I'm not a huge author. I'm not a big name. I surprisingly got a movie option for this book back in January, and we were in negotiations trying to like sign the paperwork and get some legal details hammered out. And I had just sent revisions back on the contract, only to have the film company in February, like 2 weeks later, come back and go, there's a real pandemic. We don't feel comfortable signing in this anymore. Let's just table this for now. We love it, but let's just table it. And I was like, I'm going to be that book that's always, it's too soon when it comes to like opportunities and readers. And so most readers go, I don't want to read that. And I'm like, I understand that it might scare you, but just read to the end. There's a whole purpose of hope and empowerment and coming together. Saving the world isn't about burning it down. It's about building it. It's about building it up. It's about protecting it. It's about working together. We're creationists. We create things, we build things. And that's the attitude I wanted people to read, would get from this book, is that, what what's the best part about your life and you that you can give back to the world, which is why the heroine, who's a little nobody, who just worked in like internet advertising, ends up being the president, not the hero, even though he's named Lincoln. Devastate Me is a really cute little short story novella that I did originally as an audio only for the Read Me Romance podcast, which is a really great podcast where you get to listen to a chapter a day for free from a new book for 5 days every week. And I'd had this, kind of funny idea about a gruff Navy SEAL and a cute girl who moves in next door. So you kind of have these, fun, cute tropes. But I also wanted to touch a little bit about veterans and how veterans feel. And because my father served in Vietnam, and to this day, people don't see, when they look at him, they have no idea he's a veteran. And I thought, I want to write a story where I explore a little bit the pain and the suffering of what these veterans go through, even now when they come home, and how they heal and how they are strong, but how they need people to love them, to care about them, whether romantically or not, or just in general. This is just a little tiny, fun, light, short story, but the kernel of that message was sort of a tribute to my father and his service and everyone else who served.
What did you achieve in 2020 as a romance author that you're most proud of?
I had my very first two German books come out, which was really exciting for me because I've been really wanting to get into foreign markets. And then I saved up my money really, really hard, and I was able to pay for a historical romance novella to be translated into German. And that was incredibly exciting to be able to launch that a couple weeks ago by myself. And then I also just got offered a 7-book translation deal with the Brazil publisher they would translate into Portuguese.
Have you developed any interesting new obsessions or hobbies in 2020?
Yes. I've started going to estate sales, and I've gotten really, really obsessed with finding old books that are out of print. I found an author, and I won't say that author's name because it's a secret right now, and their books have been completely forgotten. You can't find them except in a couple of used bookstores. I didn't even know this person existed, and I am so into old literature. And I think this person may have invented the meet cute. I'm not even kidding. I think this person literally wrote the modern meet cute in the 1900s, and we just have forgotten because of this author was tragically murdered by one of their siblings. And I will go into all of that when I start. I'm going to be re-releasing this person's books because they're in the public domain, and they're free. And sadly, this person has no surviving children, no surviving descendants. The line is dead. This is like my new purpose, is that in my spare time, I'm retyping these books up. I'm doing some extra fun back matter, providing annotations. I'm going to be working in illustrations from the time period. And I'm just going to give these books back to the world and give this author back their voice because they've been silenced for over 100 years. So that's been my obsession this year.
I couldn't imagine a better answer. You are endlessly fascinating. What are you currently working on as 2020 nears an end?
My next Emma Castle is going to be a retelling, and it's going to be the Labyrinth movie from 1986 with David Bowie, only I want everyone to picture Henry Cavill from The Witcher as my Fey Prince.
Are there goblins like in this? Like, how do
there probably will be some goblins. It won't be to the Muppet Jim Henson level because that was a Jim Henson movie, which I'm a huge Muppet fan, by the way. No regrets there. But I'm going to probably have it a little more sinister, a little more less comical. It'll be a little more dark.
What's the expected release date for the Labyrinth retelling?
Oh God, probably, I hate saying this to readers because they really don't understand, but fall of 2021.
Emma, it has been a sincere pleasure spending time with you today on Reader Seeks Romance. Thank you again for visiting with me.
Oh, thank you for letting me chat. I love seeing people with the pandemic. It's been so nice to just have a talk.